Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Eden Road podcast, where on today's show we're going to be reflecting on the 2-0 defeat away at Stamford Bridge on Saturday. Craig joins me. Craig, how are you?
I'm not too bad, thank you. I'm glad we didn't roll over in the way we have done in previous away games, so I'm feeling better about this one.
Dan?
Yeah, I'm good. It's almost more frustrating though when you play well and you feel like you deserve something. But yeah, you can't complain with how we played overall.
No, we're going to get into everything. We've got a bunch of questions to get through. We'll talk about a bit of the match action in general. We'll look ahead to Forest as well. But just before we do all that, remember to drop a comment down below with your thoughts around the Chelsea game. Subscribe to the YouTube and Spotify channels. Follow us on the socials at Ealing Road on Twitter, at Ealing Road Pod on Instagram. Tweet of the week was very, very easy for me this week. Although I did see another tweet. I don't know if you boys saw a picture of Premier League net spend over the last 10 years. And Brentford were like miles down the list and about minus 14 million. And everyone else was, the club that we played on Saturday, Chelsea, like minus 900 million. Kind of goes to show just how clever and shrewd we are in the transfer market. But I think the outstanding tweet of the week for me, and we can kind of talk about Chelsea's antics in general on Saturday. But I'm sure that Chelsea fans would say that Brentford players were as culpable, if not more. But in response to our request for questions for this week's episode, Marty Fergal said, how have more people not punched Mark Cucurella in the face? Dan, what do you reckon?
I feel like this is a question every team's fans probably ask every week when they play them. I mean, it wasn't just him. They were very irritating as a whole team. I do think that it's something we should do a little bit more when we're winning games, particularly if the tide's going against us. And I think it says a lot that Chelsea felt they had to do these things to get over the line because they were clearly under pressure. It clearly was not a comfortable game for them. We dominated the midfield for large periods, and I did not see that coming at all. And the fact that they had to, resort to these sorts of tactics to beat us, I think it says a lot. And it's only a compliment to us. And like I said, I wish we do those things, to be honest, even more when we're 1-0 up in a tight game. Because we might not drop so many leads if we did so.
Craig, piss boiled adequately in the away end?
How hateable was their left-hand side, by the way?
Yeah.
How hateable was it? With Cucurella, with Garnacho, and then so Fernandez drifting into that area as well, with Caicedo being on the other side. It was the most hateable left side of football I've seen in a long, long time.
No, definitely. I think the thing that really frustrated me was the corners. Every single corner, like they're just a shambles at the moment. Someone goes. There's about 20 players. Well, every single player in the box. It feels like every single player in the box goes down. You're waiting for the referee to give a foul, and it obviously goes the other way. But it felt like after every corner we had, that there was some sort of appeal towards the referee.
Whenever the referee goes to talk to the players to tell them not to carry on pushing or whatever before the corner's taken, that always, nearly always, as soon as the corner's taken, they just give a free kick, and you could just see it coming time and time again. And it always seems to happen, not just in this game. It always seems to be when the referee talks to the players, corner comes straight in, they give a free kick anyway.
Yeah, no, it was infuriating. Especially like when we were on top in that second half before they got the goal, it felt like the tide was turning a bit. Rosenior made some changes and kind of fizzled out a bit. But that away end, Jordan Nagara, if you're listening, he said this away end was ready to go at any point. And I'm gutted we didn't get that goal, because I feel like if we did, we might be talking about a very different result with the way that the game was going. But Craig, initial thoughts. I know we've touched on it already, but strong line. I couldn't have any complaints with the lineup, to be fair. I thought it was spot on. And what did you make of it?
A lot of people beforehand were calling for Dango to come straight back in, and I didn't ever really see that happening. And you don't really change a winning team, do you? We've done so well over the past 6 games. It would have been a bit silly to make a lot of changes going into this. Very happy with it. And I'm enjoying the link-up play between, Damsgaard and Jensen, Damsgaard and Thiago and Kev and things like that as well. And I know we're going to talk about him today. It's hard not to. But I was happy with the lineup. Can't complain with it. And we went into that game with 5 attackers on the bench. Like, where's Keith Andrews gone?
No, it was a positive setup, wasn't it, Dan? I mean, it feels like the 5 at the back kind of turgid football. It feels like we've passed that now. I think Keith Andrews kind of realised that we do have the players to kind of go at these teams, especially away from home as well. And like you said, you were quite surprised with how dominant we were for large parts of that game, were you?
Yeah, the football we played, again, that's a criticism we've had this season over the last several weeks, but particularly in this game, the way we moved the ball through the midfield, it was brilliant. We weren't relying on balls over the top to Thiago or Schade. We were brave pressing them. I like Damsgaard and Jensen together, and I think you only really need a front two. I think Schade and Thiago are enough of a handful in themselves, and I think if you add that extra man in midfield, because Damsgaard cuts in. I know Jensen was seen on the right a lot, but both of them will cut inside and play a bit of a free role, and it just allows us to control the midfield a little bit more because we outnumber them. And the football was great, between both boxes. I thought we were easily the better side. It was just down to missed chances at one end and a couple of mistakes at the other end, and tight margins when you're playing good teams. I think that's going to happen. It's a shame because on another day, we'd win this.
It's kind of a 4-2-2, isn't it? With Damsgaard and Jensen on the same pitch, because Damsgaard's not really holding the width, but it was kind of the same at Everton. He was kind of playing close to Thiago and Schade, and when you do have 4 men in the midfield, and like you said, Thiago and Schade up top, it's going to cause a lot of teams problems. And we did do that. And I guess the first big moment of the game, Craig. Should we have a go at kind of dissecting the chance, the decision, the subsequent Instagram post that got deleted quite quickly after it went up? I mean, Craig, just tell me what's going on in Kevin Schade's head there.
I don't know. I think the good part of it, if we go back before that chance, the good part of it is a lot of the time as well. I was very impressed with how we pressed Chelsea. We was pressing them on the front foot to a lot of the time that our centre backs were winning the ball on the halfway line, and this chance is a really good example. Chris wins the ball on the halfway line, plays it into Damsgaard, who gets it forward to Thiago, who plays it through to Kev, and within 3 passes, we're in their penalty area, and it was a fantastic bit of play, winning the ball back and progressing that quickly. Kev then sits their player on his arse, sits him down, which was fantastic. He cuts it back onto his left foot, and you're thinking, slot it in. All right, you're on the edge of the 6-yard box practically. You're on the edge of the 6-yard box. Just slot it in. Just shoot. It's more difficult to miss in this scenario, or at least make the keeper save it. And people are going, this is a man without confidence. He's got a hat-trick 3 games ago. He's got like 3 or 4 assists in the last sort of 5 or 6 games as well. This is a man that's been quite prolific in front of goal, being it scoring or being it getting the assists. And he passes. He's on the 6-yard box with no defenders in front of him, and he passes. I don't know how to dissect that because I don't know what he's thinking. He passes. Who passes there?
The pass isn't even on.
It's not even a good pass either. It's not even a good pass. Like, it's not even a good pass. The pass isn't on. It's not a good pass. Who the fuck passes?
I thought he was good between the boxes. I thought he had a good game generally. He doesn't look up enough for me. When he's got the ball in those areas, even the second chance in the second half, he doesn't look up enough. He's looking down. He's looking at the ball. Good strikers, the best strikers, I would say, they look up early, they look up fairly regularly to see where the keeper is and put the ball the other side. And, the fact he doesn't look up meant that he probably couldn't really see that the pass wasn't on. He just knew Damsgaard was somewhere to his left. And maybe he didn't realise what exact position he was in. Or he's not confident enough to use his left foot, but I don't really think that's the case. He must have scored left-footed goal. He scored a perfect hat-trick a couple of weeks ago, so he can do it. It's a real shame because you got to take those moments, particularly against the better teams. If we're playing a team at home, who are in the relegation zone, you might get 3 or 4 good chances to score, but you've got to take those moments against the big teams. But he was good in the middle of the pitch. Everyone was good in the middle of the pitch, and he wasn't the only one that missed a big chance. But unfortunately, 2 of our 3 biggest chances fell to him. And it's just look up, take a moment. He did brilliantly to sit down the defender. Yeah. You just got to do that last little bit.
I was seeing people kind of criticizing his overall performance, and I thought by and large he was good. Obviously, apart from the 2 chances, and that's really what the game was decided on. But I saw someone in the Instagram video that I made say, what do you expect? Schade's finishing hasn't been great, or he's not that kind of goal poacher. But he scored a lot of goals like that this season already. If you think about the Liverpool game, the hat trick against Bournemouth, and this not too long ago. So yeah, the Instagram post afterwards. Anyone see that? Anyone chuckle at that a little bit? I've seen that doing.
He needs to take responsibility, doesn't he? Like, he needs to have the awareness to think, okay, I could have done better in these situations. I'm watching it back now before I post it and thinking maybe I should have just done a bit better in these situations. And he's looking at most of them that he's claiming, I'm assuming, should have been a penalty, like in the aftermath to this when he passed it, when he got it back. I think that would have been very soft if that's given a penalty. He does go down a bit too easily for me. And I think it's just best to keep quiet. And, yes, he had a generally good game, but he also knows that, that's on him. The fact he didn't score those 2 goals, he should have done a bit better in those situations.
We've got a few questions on Schade, so we'll leave it there before we obviously talk about the next chance. But I mean, their goal, Craig, it's a really good finish. I think a lot of the pre-match stuff was about. I saw an article in the Athletic talking about João Pedro versus Igor Thiago and the battle for that Brazil number 9 shirt. I mean, Pedro took his chance, but you'd have to say it's kind of our own making. I really think Aya should be doing better, but it's almost like he's waiting for the flag to go up. But it's just sloppy, Craig.
Yeah, Damsgaard does well. He wins the ball from. It might have been Enzo. I can't remember who it was. He wins the ball back. He's got a chance to play it forward. He lays it off to Yarmo. Yarmo's got a chance to play it forwards, but he lays it off to Coyote. Then Coyote obviously just swings a leg at it, and it hits whoever it hits and drops to João Pedro. Now, not realizing that Coyote was in the penalty area, I thought he was so far offside. I was adamant that was not going to be a goal. I was goading. But, you're right. I think that when you watch it back, there is sort of no urge from Christopher Raya to get goal side of João Pedro to try and get that block in. Or he at least does get goal side, but makes no effort really to stop the shot from happening. And I think that everybody thought he was offside. It's very reminiscent in a different way to Thiago's goal against Man United, where you felt a bit like, well, I shouldn't really celebrate this because he looks so far offside, and then the goal gets given anyway. But Damsgaard probably could have cleared it. Yarmo could have cleared it. Coyote should have done better with the clearance. Chris Fryer probably should have done a bit better with the block, and then it's a good finish. But yeah, it's a goal of our own doing, and unfortunately, we were the masters of our own downfall this weekend.
We were. I mean, Garnacho has a big chance as well in that second half. It wasn't. That was a difficult shot. I don't know why he goes for it with his left. It's like he should meet it with his right. I think Coyote is caught sleeping at the back post, but that's their other big chance of the game. If we had 3, they had 1 really. But I mean, we've got another one just before half time, Dan, and again, you've got to be at least hitting the target. I think if it falls to Jensen on his right foot, he probably does. But again, I did a video on the freeze frames of each chance about when they're about to pull the trigger. They are high quality chances, all 3 of them. And all 3 of them, especially that Jensen one, Dan, he's got to do better.
Yeah, I think it's probably the hardest of the 3 chances, I'd say, because it came to him and it was like on the volley. He did it the post of it. But if you want it to fool someone, you want it to fall to like a technician. And, he is one of our technicians in the team. And, on another day, he does score that. And, this is just what we're talking about in this episode. It's just a series of missed chances that, on another day might go in, and then it's a very different game. If we got 1, you had a feeling that, we were on top, and you'd had a feeling that we could go on and win that game, but we got to get the first goal, especially in the second half when Chelsea start making defensive changes. They recognize that they've got to protect what they've got because we're the better team. And you do just feel, given the pattern of play, the way it was going, the players they had left on the pitch, if we had got 1, then you feel that we would have been the ones with the momentum and the ones still creating chances. And it's such a shame because obviously we would have been in such a good position if we had scored.
I mean, that they Rosenior was the one who kinned Garnacho for Santos at 1-0. So it was kind of like he was kind of settling for that result, taking off an attacker for a midfielder. I think, I mean, the next chance is another big one. I want to give Schade the benefit of the doubt. I still think he should do better. I still think it's a good save from Sanchez. Both can be true. Obviously, the first one's more of a howler from Schade. But I mean, yeah, we're not just going to spend the whole podcast just sitting about talking about what could have been. Who's at fault? Who's at fault for the pen? Collins or Kelleher? Because I think, or is it both?
Both of
Yeah.
them.
Go on then.
It's just one of those mix-ups, isn't it? It's not fantastic. The pass isn't fantastic from Collins. The reaction in the way Kelleher dives in on the lat's probably not fantastic either. And it's an easy penalty to give. People are saying, oh, he's had a shot, but there's no positive outcome from the challenge on the lap because Collins clears it. It was like Dan said, between the boxes we were fantastic, but in our own box we weren't great, and in their box we weren't great. But everything in between we was really good. But that was just a bit of a head in hands moment, especially from the way end. Like, we're in this game and you give away a chance like that, it's like, oh, what are you doing, man? Come on.
Yeah, I mean, the game kind of fizzled out after the pen. Nizar Kinsella wrote on the BBC Sport website, Brentford have never spent more than £42 million on a player, while Chelsea started two £100 million midfielders and were able to bring on subs like Delap. It remains remarkable that Brentford are boxing in the same weight class as Chelsea. There was no meaningful gap in general play, with the only difference coming in the final third, which is kind of speaking to what you just said, Craig. As true as that may be, Dan, as you mentioned at the top of the show, it is fucking infuriating when you play really well and you don't get anything out of the game. Probably more infuriating than when you play badly and deserve to lose. Having said that, we'll get onto the questions because I feel like we've kind of wrapped. We know the story of the game and it's just annoying. Go on, Craig.
I just think that there's a big difference in the way that you lose games sometimes. I look at games at the start of the season, like when we went to Forest, like when we went to Sunderland, like when we went to Palace, and
Fulham.
the way in which we Fulham, and the way in which I just purged that one from my memory anyway. The way in which we lost, that's even worse than the Fulham. That was even worse than the Fulham one. The manner in which we lost those games in a time where we created nothing, compared to the manner in which we lost this game against Chelsea, and the reaction from the fans, like Dan said as well at the start, the reaction from the fans is everything. If we go to places like, doesn't matter if it's Chelsea or, it doesn't matter if it's Burnley, it doesn't matter if it's going to be Leeds or Arsenal. If you go out there and you create chances and you have opportunities to win the game, in which we did, because we had opportunities to win that game. If we go 1-0 up, like Dan says, or we get a goal back at 1-1, it completely changes the dynamic of the game, and we have opportunities to go on and win it. And the reaction from the fans shows after this game, and obviously games that we've won recently, that it is performance sometimes over result. It is a result based business, really, but performance over result can be sometimes so much more important to the fans. And it shows that losing this game 2-0 versus the way we lost at Fulham, the way we lost at Spurs, the fans react differently based on the performance. And if we can carry on with good performances between now and the end of the season, it might be a bit more enjoyable to watch us away from home than it was at the start of the year. And I'm having deja vu to January last year when we started winning games, and all of a sudden going, well, I might go to that one. I might do that one. I'm up for going to that. Last year, if we was playing Newcastle in December on a 5:30 kickoff, with the way that we was playing away from home, I'd be going, there is no chance. There is zero chance that I am going to Newcastle for that game. And then we start playing the way we're playing. I know it's fickle football fans, but you're going, I could do that. I could do Newcastle at 5:30.
Dan, what do you reckon? You want to see us out on the Chelsea game, and then we'll get into some questions. Are you happy with that performance away from home? And you confident if we play like that, we'll get more points on the road?
Yes, I'm happy with it. We've got some really daunting games coming up, which I think are probably harder places to go than Stamford Bridge at the moment. So we've got to show it again. That's got to be the standard now for the general performance. I've got to say, Craig said it don't always matter about results, but I'm sure if this was Burnley away and the same thing happened, I'm not sure we'd get the same reception towards the end of the game, because we'd be like, how have we not beaten them? But Yeah, it's good. All I'll say as well is that on the second Schade chance, again, I think you can see the keeper was kind of positioning himself to the left because the cross goal is like the natural finish. And again, if Schade looks up a little bit more, he might be able to see that. And I think going to the near post, where I think there was more space based on the goalkeeper's positioning, I think that would have been the better finish. It's good to see Donovan get his Premier League debut as well.
Yep.
And if he is going to stay and not go out on loan, he needs regular minutes. And I mean that was more my point. I think he needs regular minutes, or he'll stagnate and he won't reach the potential that we know he can reach. So it depends, where he is in Keith Andrews' plans. But he looked good. He looked bright again for those few minutes.
Well, onto some questions, and we'll start with Donovan because you're giving me a nice segue. Sid on Twitter saying, when do we unleash Donovan on the Prem? Are we looking a bit short in midfield? Options off the bench yesterday look absent to me. I do agree with that part. Murph said, outstanding last year, but Donovan for KLP as a sub. And Winger Wizard says, why does KLP come on ahead of Nelson at left wing? Craig, do you think we need to start seeing Donovan ahead of KLP? Does KLP need to be dropped to the bottom of the pecking order when we're looking to bring on attackers now? What do you reckon?
KLP is one of those players that you just don't know what kind of game he's going to have, unfortunately. Well, you could say that for anyone, couldn't you? But he's, bar the Wolves performance, in which obviously he scored both the goals, I don't feel... I'm trying to say this politely. Keane is the least confident player I'm in. I can't get my words out. I think you understand what I'm trying to say. I'm least confident when Keane's got the ball in front of goal than any of our other forwards, and that includes Kevin Schade based on this weekend as well. Look, he's been a fantastic servant at the club, has Keane while he's been here. Also, he did his dog work last season playing at left back, and he was fantastic. But he just doesn't look confident for me in front of goal. You've got a young player like Donovan who's keen. He looks eager. He looks exciting when he's on the ball. He gets the fans going, and why don't we give young players a chance? Why don't we give the young player a chance, a young, exciting player?
I think KLP is just a bit... I'd say he's more of like the bland option. Like, he'll play a few nice passes. He'll run around a lot. He'll do some defensive work. But in terms of, then you've got Donovan, who will beat a man. He'll take risks. He'll probably lose the ball more often. And he might expose us a little bit more, giving the ball away and allowing the opposition to break. But you say he's probably a bit more likely to make something happen. And then Nelson's probably a bit more of like the technical option. He might curl one in from long range. He's got a bit more of that quality. He's not so raw, and he won't necessarily take on men as much as, or running behind as much as Donovan. But I trust that his end product will probably be a bit better when it comes to the final shot or the final cross. But I mean, when it comes to Nelson, I'm starting to doubt the point of this loan now, because I don't think we'll sign him. I don't think he's a long-term player for us. Are we going to then really invest in him and develop him this season, unless we really think he's got a real edge on Donovan or KLP? So I'd like to see Donovan a bit more, but I suspect Keith Andrews likes a bit more.
You'd like to see him go out on loan. That's what you said in the last
I'd like to see him play, but I just don't think he will play. So I think the best thing for him would be a loan deal in that sense, because I think Keith Andrews likes the security that KLP offers a little bit more than the unpredictability of Donovan.
When Donovan came on, he beat his man twice. He had a shot on goal, and he did more than KLP did in the limited time that he had. I would love to see Donovan make an impact on games and be given the amount of time. I mean, the subs were still fairly late, and to give credit, or to give Keith the benefit of the doubt, I think the subs were ready before the pen was taken, and then they came on straight after. But Dango came on, didn't look amazing, but I mean, maybe that's expected given the sharp turnaround from AFCON. But I'd like to see Donovan be given more minutes ahead of KLP, especially if we're chasing a game, because like you said, I think KLP is a safe option. But when we're chasing a game, we need a goal. I think Donovan showed in 3 minutes more than KLP did in the 10 minutes or so that he was on. Do we look a little bit light in midfield? Henderson was missing from the lineup, from the subs bench, because I think he picked up an injury against Sheffield Wednesday and he went off at half time. We also have a question from Martin on Twitter saying, have you heard why Josh Da Silva isn't back? His interview said he'd be back training with the first team after the international break. No, I don't know. But Brentford's history with players back on the grass, I'm not sure. Craig, what do you want to say?
When they did the, I always thought he was out with a hamstring injury. I'm not gonna lie. I thought that's why he was out for so long. And then
Silva?
the Silva, yeah, I thought he
ACL,
did.
wasn't it?
I thought he did his hammy, like one of them, or like tore it. And then when the Brentford did the post about the updates on injured players, it's just said knee ligaments, so it could well have been an ACL. But that's what Melambo and Fab are out. So if we got a trifecta of ACLs, then maybe it is that.
he said in an interview with the club he did his ACL, MCL, and meniscus in early Feb 24. So
nice.
that's a lengthy spell on the touchline. But what I mean, I don't think we'd light in midfield, to be honest. It's when we play that kind of 4-2-2 and we opt for Damsgaard in there, and then we don't have an option off the bench, maybe, and Henderson's injured too. Then we look at a bit light in midfield. But I personally, I mean, this might be a crazy shout, but I think KLP could probably do a pretty tidy job in midfield, especially if we're chasing the game, as opposed to being on the left wing.
My out there shout, my like hear me out shout is playing Aaron Hickey at defensive midfield. That's where he started. when he started playing for Hearts when he was a youngster, he started playing as a defensive midfielder. I say a youngster like he's like one of the more seasoned players. He started as a defensive midfielder and then he got moved out to that right back position. So if he can play there, that's my shout. Put Aaron Hickey as a defensive midfielder, keep Rico at left back. And then if we need another body in midfield, bosh, problem solved.
Frank Onyeka is back from AFCON as of next week, so he'll fill his place on the bench too. I think he's probably a player who we need to think about moving on. But if we need an extra body in that midfield, if we are going to persist with Damsgaard and Edson in the same team, and we just want an extra reinforcement, I think maybe keep him till the end of the season and then get a new central midfielder in the summer. But I can't see anything happening in January in terms of new players.
I think Frank Onyeka's been put up. Well, apparently I've been reading reports that we're willing to let him go in Jan to go to Valencia. I know he said that he wanted to go to Man United, and then he was being linked with Coventry, which is a bit of a steep drop off for Frank. But
it's funny, in the same week that he's been caught on camera saying that he wants to play for Manchester United, he's being linked with moves to the Championship, and I think that's quite amusing. Is this the first? I can't remember another game week that we've had where we haven't actually had a midfielder on the bench. Yeah, because we had 3 defenders, 5 attackers, and the goalkeeper. We didn't have another midfielder on the bench at all.
Yeah, I mean, the Hendo injury. The thing is, even in that game, I know Hendo probably would have come on, but I'm not sure what he would have offered in terms of us getting back into the game in a game like that, where they kind of allowed us to have the ball. And we just couldn't really find that finishing touch. Question from Gary on Twitter: is it time to start Hickey instead of Rico? Staying on the topic of Aaron Hickey, I still think the fact that Keith is rotating between the two, I think, is good and healthy, and I think they suit different games. I think obviously Hickey's better in possession, Rico a little bit better when we want to get forward down the touchline a bit more and hold that width. But I still think it's healthy that we're rotating both. Where should we go next? We've got Joe Thompson on Twitter with a bit of a philosophical one. I don't know who we should throw this one to. Would you swap Frank for Keith at this point? Would you have swapped them 2 months ago? Is supporting a football team an emotional rollercoaster where from one week to the next, supporters' opinions fluctuate so much as to render them almost not worth listening to? Love the pod. Thank you for that last line. Either of you want to have a stab at that? Would you swap Keith for Frank at this point?
I wouldn't swap him now, certainly. I even a couple of months ago, I'm not sure going back is the answer. I think I would have maybe liked a bit more of an experienced, established manager a couple of months ago. But I think since then, Keith's definitely shown that he can progress our style of play and the way we've been in recent weeks. You know, I wouldn't particularly want anyone else at this point, but I'm not sure I would have swapped him for Thomas Frank, though. I think we should just part that chapter. As much as I love him, I just think...
I can come back as a set piece coach. No?
Yeah, unless he wants to do that. He's welcome to do that if he wants.
I think we had another question on Thomas Frank, Craig, which I'll hand to you. Jake on Twitter saying, do you think Frank's failure at Spurs will change how Bees fans view the success he had here? As in, will Bees fans see what he's done at Tottenham and now think, now we know it was more Benham and Giles combined with Keith's success. What do you reckon, Craig? I mean, Frank is on his knees at this point, isn't he?
I think that it would be harsh to take it away from him. It does look like that, doesn't it? Like, it looks like a masterclass from Ben and Giles to bring Keith in, but we all had the same doubts of Thomas Frank in the beginning of his tenure. I remember being at Hull chanting for Frank out. You know, I remember being there. But if we was to take the memory of Thomas Frank and what he did for us as a football club, considering where we were when he first came in as a coach to where we are now, that it'd be a bit harsh. But I can see both sides of this. You know, now he's moved on. The grass isn't always greener, but we seem to be on to pastures new. It's difficult, isn't it? But Thomas Frank will always be a Brentford legend.
Yeah, I think
we're just an easier club to manage, aren't we? I think.
Yeah,
you've got to have some quality as head coach, but
there's lower expectations, aren't there, for us? There's lower expectations for us than there are for a club like Spurs. And he's not going to win the fans over by saying stuff like, "Are we really a Champions League club? We finished 17th last season." Like, he's not going to win the fans over. So some of the things that he said, even when he was at Brentford, like it doesn't do himself any favors.
It's too honest. And drinking out of Arsenal cups as well. Like, what are you doing, Thomas? Come on now. What are you doing? Should we talk a bit about Schade a bit more? Brentford Westander says, how much more can Schade improve? Thought he played well, but his lack of end product let us down again. He has the potential, but at some point he needs to start being more consistent if he wants to kick on. Personally, I'm not sure he'll get any better at this point. Aidan Bridge on Twitter also saying, unlucky performance yesterday, but why does Schade keep getting scapegoated? Kelleher's at fault for 2 pens, including Wolves and Chelsea. Coyote's made 2 goal-leading errors, including Burnley. I accept those errors as just poor errors. When can a loss not just be one of those bad days at the office? And then MKW Ultra saying, scapegoating Schade after that is nonsense. Howler from Coyote, a player is immune to criticism. Howler from Collins, our club captain. Howler from Thiago, the golden boot striker. Howler from Jensen, the long-time servant at the club. And Garnacho missed his chance too. We went away to Chelsea. They set up in a low block and looked to counter while flopping around their own box like beach salmons. That's true. Not something we're faced with very often. And while flattering, it explains the number of mistakes that we made across the entire pitch. And then he put a picture of Keanu Reeves with like about 1,000 guns on him saying how it feels to defend Schade in 2026. Do we skate? It's difficult to not talk about Schade after the game. But like I feel like it's fair to say that I thought he was quite good throughout the 90, just in that final end product, which is kind of what Brentford Westander is saying. That's where he kind of lets himself down a bit. Having said that, he scored a lot of goals this season already, but like it does feel like there's kind of a Schade split amongst the fan base. You get those that kind of vehemently defend him and those who kind of think that he's absolutely useless. I think he's probably somewhere in between. But is it wrong that he gets scapegoated for the loss on Saturday? I mean, I don't know. One of you tell me.
It's a tough one, isn't it? Because if Kev puts that chance away where he passes for some reason, we're winning 1-0. You know, their press changes because they have to change from that low block to then try and get a goal, which opens up the space behind even more for Kevin Thiago to run into. It completely changes the game. But the point that Aidan makes as well, like the mistake from Coyote, the mistake from Collins and Kelleher, the miss from Jensen, like when we look back at it without that scapegoating or kind of an unbiased towards other players as well, there were so many people that were responsible for us not winning that game. It wasn't just Schade. There were so many people responsible for it. And it's easy to say, oh, on another day, you know, he'll score that chance. He'll score the one at the start of the second half. And you look at the Bournemouth game, and that's the game that he scores the goals. Like it is difficult to defend players when they just make the wrong decision, not when they miss a chance, but when they make the wrong decision. And in regards to the Kelleher mistakes, he's kind of got a double-edged sword, because if he goes for the ball and he catches the player, it's a penalty. If he doesn't go for the ball or he goes for the ball, completely misses it, it is just an open goal for Delap at that point. He's in a bit of a lose-lose situation where he can't really do the right thing, because if he doesn't go for it, people will be like, well, why hasn't he attempted the ball? I think goalkeeper's a really difficult position. It's a double-edged sword. There's no real win for a goalkeeper. But again, it is a howler of a pass from Nathan Collins as well. There are so many players that were responsible for us not winning the game, and so many people that were responsible for us losing it.
And I think it's because Schade has previous, right? It's because of the attitude. It's because the inconsistencies. It's kind of easy to point the finger at him when he does miss those chances, and it contributes towards us not taking our opportunities in front of goal. Dan, where are you with Schade? There were reports earlier last week, I think, suggesting that he could be, or there could be a number of potential suitors for him after the World Cup, between the region of 50 to 60 million. Would you take that at the end of this season? And do you think he'll be a Brentford player next year?
I probably would. I mean, it depends who's coming in. We'll have to line someone up, and they'd have to be at least on par with him. I think he can improve. Whether we'll ever see that at Brentford, anyway, I don't know. He can do it all. We've seen him do it all. He just doesn't do it all enough or consistently enough. And he's got it, but he just needs to just be more consistent and improve in certain things. But it's a hard one with him. He can be very frustrating, but he can also be very good, and he will win us points at different stages in the season. But you could also almost argue he will also squander a few points as well. It's a difficult one. He doesn't have the influence on the team that someone like Bryan Mbeumo had. I don't think he'd be quite as hard to replace as Bryan Mbeumo was, and perhaps still is. I don't think Dango's lived up to his levels yet. But Dango at times has probably got close to Kevin Schade's levels, which shows that, he is probably that level below. He was the one I hoped would step up this season, but it has really been Igor Thiago mainly. I think he probably will leave, possibly this summer. And I think, if we can get a good replacement in, a strong replacement, maybe a couple of wide options, so, we can rotate and we can cover positions a bit better, then I wouldn't really say no. I don't necessarily think that would make us weaker next season if the replacements are of good quality.
What if the replacement's Romelle Donovan?
Yeah, exactly. It'll be out on loan.
We'll have to see how he does second half of this season, won't we?
Yeah, once he's been to Forest Green on loan for the season, because we don't want to send him somewhere in the football league.
Sudo here on Twitter saying, how does creating a song for a player or team members work? Is there a committee that comes up with a song? How does the song get approved? And then how can all those fans learn and sing a song so quickly? Is there a staff meeting? Lol. I'm not really sure on this one. Craig, you've got?
I'll take this one.
Yeah,
I'll take this one. Yeah. So there's a couple of songs that are out there that have come from a few of us. Most recently, the Dango one was we was on our way to Forest, and we came up with that one. Basically, the Dango one was we was walking from the train station to Nottingham Forest. We was just trying to figure out songs that Dango's name fits in. And then once we figure it out, well, you literally just post it on Twitter, hope that other people see it, and you don't get slander for it, because there is part of our fan base that hate any song that has more than 4 words in it. So you have to be careful with the ones that you go for, because there are fans that hate new songs and only like the old ones. But the Dango one really, really kicked off away at Sunderland. I don't know if either of you remember for that one. It really kicked off away at Sunderland. And when you tweet it and then you start singing it and other people go, what's the words to that one? You just open the tweet, here you go, this is the words. And then it cracks on and it kicks on. Do you remember the Stuart Dallas song? And Jordan, you mentioned Jordan earlier on. Jordan came up with this one. The Stuart Dallas song, when he was with us, it was like, he plays like Luis Suarez, except he doesn't bite.
God, I do remember that one.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Dallas is a monster. He plays in red and white. He plays like Luis Suarez, except he doesn't bite. He scores with his left foot. He scores with his right. And when we play the Fulham, he scores all fucking night.
Oh, that's a great song.
Jordan came up with that one, I'm sure it is. And if he's watching, he'll tell me if I'm right or wrong, won't he? But I'm sure he came up with that one. And that was in a pre-season friendly at Griffin Park. We just started singing it and it kicks on. But that was one of my favourites. And then he then he goes on to do what he does, which is a shame. But Twitter's your friend, man. But Twitter's also your enemy.
We didn't get make Dan believe getting in the terraces on.
Oh yeah, what's going on?
I was chanting that and no one joined in. That's the thing.
I didn't even.
I did hear. Wait, I was in the notes here. I did hear one other voice. You know, it might have been Mike somewhere down the other side.
If that starts happening at an away game in the near future, I'll be very creeped out. Do I join in?
That'd be brilliant.
You're just joining. It's not about me, mate. It's not about me. It's some other man.
Who's that?
I don't know who that is.
You're right about some fans not I remember looking at a GPG thread and people were kicking off at the Schade chant because there was just like too many words and it was too fast. But to answer the question, I think it's got to be simple enough to be able, like the Yarmulke one is a great example because it's simple. There's only one word and it's a catchy tune that everyone knows. Whereas if you go a bit more rogue, well, Yarmulke, yeah, and then
I like it. 4 words. There's your 4 words.
No, but it's in the main bit.
The Yarmulke one, well, after you say Yarmulke the first time, instead of going like whatever it is, I think you should go in red and white. Yarmulke in red and white. I like it.
So you do that the second time?
Yeah, the second time.
Okay, what do we think of that addition to the Yarmulke song? Let us know in the comment section down below. Thanks, Dan. That was great. I want make Dan believe has got a catch on. I really want that to get going in the terraces.
Make Dan believe.
Make Dan believe. Sean on Twitter says, glad Brentford wore its classic home shirts on the road. Did it get punished for something? Is that why Brentford have the ugliest road and third kits in the Premier League? I was confused by this question. I think both our away kit and our third kit are very, very nice. I thought that was an opinion shared by the fan base. The brown one, especially, I think is gorgeous. It's a shame that we've not won in it yet. I don't think, but I think it's the classic. What was the one that we didn't win in for the whole season? The blue one, the blue away one,
and that Jaffa Cake kit. Do you guys remember that one?
I quite like the away one though.
I feel like we just play better in red and white away from home. We wore red and white at Everton, red and white at Chelsea. Did we wear red and white at Wolves as well? I can't remember, but we seem to play better when we wear our home kit. And we didn't play that well against Wolves for some of the games. Maybe, let's be honest. So our best performances tend to be in red and white.
Maybe we need to like take notes from, is it Valencia? Because I'm sure that they never wear their away kit because their home kit is bright yellow. Maybe we need to have a redesign slightly so that we can always just wear our home kits no matter what. Don't even need a second, third.
That was reminds me the black and yellow away kit. That was a lovely one. I really liked that.
Clayton Donaldson away at Notts County. What a goal! That was unreal. In the black and yellow kit as well. Do you remember the black and gold one? Do you remember the black and gold one? Charlie McDonald away at MK Dons. That going back some when Chesney was on loan with us.
Black and gold away kit. I can't remember that one.
Yeah.
No, I think I do actually. I think I do.
Was it the Hertings? Was it Hertings the sponsor?
I'm having a look now.
It was more black than gold, right? Was it? I think.
I'm sure it was black and gold. It was like gold trim. It was gold trim for sure.
Nah, someone will be able to let us know in the comments. Richard on Twitter says, how the hell did we lose that game? The Mikel Matthias combo works really well, but needs Yarmo and Vita, and also leaves us short on the bench for midfielders. We kind of already discussed that. Konak away on loan, Hendo injured. I hope Konak's loan does go really well. He went straight into their first 11, by the way, and I think he played really well on his debut.
And good luck to Pert Harris as well.
And good luck to Pert Harris too. So is it a long-term combination, or do we just revert to Dango and one of the two? What do we think of Dango being back? And I had a conversation with someone on Instagram. I think his name was Joe, I want to say, but if it's not Joe, then I apologize. And he was kind of saying he wasn't too convinced by Dango, but he's back from AFCON. Has he got a big role to play? Do you see him coming back into the lineup? It obviously just gives us more options, which is great because we found a kind of not a winning formula, but we found a settled team with this kind of 4-2-2 with Damsgaard and Jensen playing together. But Dango, Dan, what do you reckon?
I think against better teams, I'd rather see us pack the midfield and get Damsgaard and Jensen in there. But against the teams where we might feel that we can control things a little bit more, even without the two in there, I would probably still have the front three, and Dango then comes back in. So, yeah, I think he's been all right, Dango. I think the thing for me is probably the price tag. I think maybe we overpaid slightly for him. You know, he's our most expensive transfer by quite a long way, and I think that carries a little bit of weight. Obviously, at other clubs, it's probably nothing what we pay for him, but I feel like he's not hit the heights which make me think he's necessarily worth exactly what we paid for him right now. Anyway, he's young, he could get there, but I think he's been all right. He wins a lot of penalties, he gets in behind, he does a lot of the same things that we want Schade to do. And you can see the thinking behind it. He's a very Brentford sort of winger. So I think he's got a part to play, yeah. And he's been okay. He's not been bad at all. But I don't necessarily think he'll be in the team every game, and nor should he be. I think if he's been away and we've been really good, he needs to then work his way back into the team. We shouldn't be dropping players who have been part of this good run for no reason.
Chris on Twitter says, should Rico and Jensen get new deals? And anyway, you guys think where we need to strengthen in the summer? What about Cox and Balcom? Is it time to let them go? Craig, I'll give this one to you. What do you reckon on Rico, Jensen, and the two goalkeepers? Balcom, the Balcom, yeah. What's going on with Balcom these days? Is he on loan again?
No, he was there. He was practicing before the Chelsea game.
Oh, really? Was he? Okay.
Yeah.
Would you reckon?
We'd like to bring a third keeper.
So, in regards to the first two, Enrico and Jensen, yes, they don't have to be as long term as what Vitali's one was, but if we could get them down to another two with an option for a 3rd-year contracts, it just gives us that. Well, going back to the question from Richard saying, it leaves us short on the bench for midfielders. Why wouldn't you keep Jensen, someone with Premier League experience, someone who knows the club, someone who fits the system? Why wouldn't you want to keep Jensen around until you've got that player that's going to step in? I mean, if Konak's gone out on loan and he's going to be that player that steps into midfield in the future, I mean, what's happening with Paris Magoma and things like that, players like that as well? We've got so much depth in the B team and whatnot, but we don't see them getting involved. Case in point, we didn't have a midfielder on the bench this weekend. So, yeah, give them contracts. They don't have to be very long contracts. Just get them to maybe another year as well with an option. Cox has just gone out on loan to Shrewsbury. And I don't know if he's still the regular under 21s.
England, yeah.
Under 21s for England. But, I feel like Balcom's been here for as long as I can remember. I don't even know. I'm sure he's still 19, but he's probably 23 or 24 by now. Do you know what I mean? He's just one of those players that's been around for ages, but never really got anywhere close. But if he goes, I'll always have the memory of Newport away in the cup where he saved every penalty.
Last few questions or last couple of questions to get through. Dan, I think this might be the last one, and it's kind of just on Chelsea in general. Kevin says, great performance, which was punished for not taking our chances. The team which was put out easily our best 11, and the way they played honestly made me believe, this is making Kevin believe, that we can make Kev believe that we can make one of those European spots. Dan, you don't believe just yet, but you're on your way.
Yeah, I think I think just looking ahead, I think these next 4 games are big, and I think we see where we are after these next 4 games. I think Forest should be a game that we want to look to win, but then you've got 3 really tough ones, and if we don't play at a high level in those 3 games, we'll probably lose all 3. And even if we do, it'll be a tough fight to get points out of those 3 games. So I think see where we are once we've got Villa, Arsenal, and Newcastle out of the way. Then I'll tell you whether I believe.
It is a tough run. So we play Forest on Sunday, followed by Aston Villa away the following Sunday. Then we've got Newcastle away in a 5:30 kickoff on Saturday, followed by the 8 o'clock kickoff against Arsenal on the 12th of Feb. That's before we play Macclesfield in the 4th round of the FA Cup. So that's a tough run of fixtures. Let us know in the comment section how many points you think we'll be getting from those fixtures. But we should have a word on Forest before we kind of round things off, Crave. Chance to bounce back against a Sean Dyche team. We know it will be difficult. How are you feeling ahead of it? The table, despite the result on Saturday against Chelsea, is still looking pretty healthy because Liverpool didn't beat Burnley. So if we'd actually got a win against Chelsea, we would have moved up to 4th, but never mind. But the other results were kind of favourable around us. Newcastle drew 0-0 at home against Wolves. Sunderland picked up 3 points. But like we've been saying, since we kind of got ourselves into this position, it is so bloody tight from 5th all the way down to 13th still. But yeah, how are you feeling ahead of Sunday against Forest and Sean Dyche?
I think that what Dan said is pretty spot on. You've got to be looking at this game as one of the ones that you're hoping to be picking up maximum points from, especially with a tough run of fixtures to follow. And they're a funny team at the moment, Forest, aren't they? Like they're a really funny team. They have their down moments, and then they keep a clean sheet against Arsenal. They're a funny team. I think that what would be even funnier is if we beat them and West Ham win at the weekend and they go within 2 points of Forest. And I would find it even funnier if come the end of the season we're laughing at them because they've been relegated. I will be eating my words probably on Sunday when we somehow don't pick up all 3 points, but I hope that's not the case. I wouldn't change anything going into this game. To leave the team exactly the same as it is. The only difference is don't give Romelle Donovan 3 minutes. Let him have a bit more time. And those substitutions, we've spoken about the substitutions so much throughout the season on this pod. Probably needs to come a little bit earlier than the 80th minute. But it's a real good opportunity for us to get back to winning ways very quickly.
Dan?
I think they're a good team. I think they're underachieving this season. You know, the amount of signings they've made, they're bound to be a good team. You know, they've bought seemingly everyone in the last couple of years. So, Elliot Anderson in midfield, Morgan Gibbs-White just ahead of him. The 2 centre-backs, I think they're really good as well. So, it's not going to be easy. I think we should stick with the same team, try and control that midfield, because if we win that midfield battle, make them drop deep, and then if we can play football, can get the ball into Damsgaard and Jensen like we did against Chelsea, then we should create chances. And they're not going to be easy to break down. Brentford don't have a great record against Sean Dyche in the last few years. I think the first goal will be crucial. You don't want to go 1-0 behind against a team like that, who will then just try and shut up shop. So we should be confident. It's a game we can win. We need to try and take the initiative in this game. They're still not in a great position. And hopefully it'll be 3 points, and a much needed 3 points ahead of the games we've got coming up.
Who would have thought after the first game of the season being 3-0 down against Forest at half-time that they would be sat 17th on 22 points, just 5 points above the relegation zone, and we would be in 7th, just 3 points off 4th, which is Champions League. That is mental. But I think that'd be a good place to round off. Just before we go, a bit of personal news. I am going traveling to Southeast Asia tomorrow for 2 months. Don't worry, the pod is still going to be coming. Just got to kind of figure out with the time difference when the best time to record would be, and Wi-Fi permitting as well. But there may be some episodes where it's just Craig and Dan, or Craig, Dan, Callum and Miranda kind of getting through all of the matches that we're going to have during the time that I'm away, and I'll just kind of edit them and post them when and if I've got Wi-Fi. I'm hoping to I've got an eSIM, which means I can have Wi-Fi wherever I am. But I'm going to be watching Brentford and kind of judiciously planning my route through Southeast Asia, trying to figure out where the best sports bars are and trying to buy like a cheap subscription. Actually, I don't know if I told you boys, but the subscription service where you can watch every single Premier League game is £7 a month. Just let that sink in, which is ridiculous. So I'm going to be buying one of those and make sure that I watch all the games. But yeah, I'll be watching the bees from a beach in Thailand, which sounds quite fun, doesn't it?
I hope you have a good time, Mike. But if we are in Europe by the time you're done, then you're not allowed to come back, I'm afraid.
I don't want to bring up the fact that this was the first game I'd been to in a few weeks, especially after the conversation post Sunderland.
I'll stay away. Don't worry. If we're in Europe by the time we get back, I'll stay away. I won't do a Craig and be selfish and come back. But the Ealing Road podcast will be back after Forest with a full-time show. I'll be coming to you live from, I think, India at that point. But yeah, we'll be back after Forest with a full-time. So remember to drop a comment down below with everything we talked about in today's episode, the performance against Chelsea, the Schade kind of dilemma, what you think, if you think he'll be at Brentford next season, would you take the money? Let us know in the comment section. Subscribe to the YouTube and Spotify channels. Follow us on the socials at the Ealing Road on Twitter, at Ealing Road Pod on Instagram. Gents, it's been a pleasure, and I'll be speaking to you from the other side of the world next week.
Up the
bees.